Kelsey. So the last time you were here, you were telling me that you were changing your major to psychology, but you were pretty sure your mom wants you to stick with biology. Am I right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so has anything happened since then, since we last spoke about it?
Not really. I almost built up the courage to tell my mom once, but I got afraid and I backed out.
Why did you back out?
I just didn't feel like dealing with it at the time, because I feel like as soon as I tell her, it's going to be like a load of questions, and I just don't feel like dealing with it.
Okay, so what's the worst that could happen if you, or when you tell your mom?
I think the worst that would happen was she would just be really mad. She always says, like, if we ever, like, decide to change our majors or whatever, she would stop paying for school, but I don't really believe her.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that, because I'm not sure
I don't believe her because ever since me and my sisters were little, she has always told us that she would pay for our first 4 years of college, and then after that, whatever we decide, like if we wanted to go to like grad school or med school or whatever, that would be our responsibility to pay, since she's started it off us so well.
Okay, so you think either way she's gonna pay?
I really think
okay.
I really think she's still gonna pay no matter what.
So your main concern now is just getting up the courage to tell her.
Yeah, and being able to deal with basically whatever she comes back at me with, like anger, disappointment, whatever.
Is that what you're expecting?
Yeah, I think at first she'll be really angry, and then it'll turn into disappointment in both herself and myself.
Okay, what exactly do you think she'd be disappointed with? Your choice?
For me personally, I think she would be disappointed that, I think she would think I'm not going in the right direction with my life. I know I want to change my major to psychology, and I feel like she would say, well, what are you going to do with that? And then, as I'm not really sure what I want to do, I feel like it wouldn't help her understand that this is what I really want to do with my life.
Okay. Wouldn't your mom want what's best for you, though?
I think she does she does want what's best for me. It's just that her idea of what's best for me isn't the same as my idea of what's best for me.
Okay. So how do we get you to calm your fears about telling your mom? Because you seem pretty definite.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to change my major.
Okay.
That's basically a done set deal. Conquering my fear of telling my mom is something that's going to be pretty hard,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, what about your dad?
My dad is more kind of laid back guy. He just wants what's best for me, and if I'm happy, he's happy. So, I mean, he's kind of, I would be more comfortable with him, I guess.
Okay, so what about telling him first? Is that a possibility?
I can see that as a possibility. The only thing that kind of makes me shy away from that is if I tell him first and then I tell my mom, but my dad has already known, she's going to say, well, why didn't you just tell me first? Why did you tell your father first?
Okay, so you think she'll be upset because of your relationship that you went to your father first?
Yeah, I feel like she would feel like I not betrayed her, but kind of went behind a relationship, and like she would wonder like, why didn't you just feel comfortable telling me first?
Okay, and if she asks you that, what would be your response?
If she asked why I wasn't comfortable telling her, I think I would just say, well, I was afraid to tell you because I didn't want to disappoint you, and I didn't want you to be angry with me. That I didn't think going to medical school was the best, like you thought it was.
So you would just be honest with her?
Yeah, I think I would be. I feel like once it got to that point, I would be able to open up. It's just beginning the whole process of telling her.
So you said you're more comfortable with this with your dad. So, and you don't obviously want to tell him first because you seem to be pretty dead set against that. What about telling them together?
kind of like as like a trio
Yeah.
kind of thing. I could see that happening. I guess that way my dad would be there, and since he's a little bit more supportive, I would feel that. And then since he's being supportive, maybe my mom would feed off of that and be like, oh, okay, well, I see where you're going with this. I just want you to be happy, so I guess this is like a good change as long as you're set upon it.
Okay, so that sounds like it's going to be a good possibility for you.
Yeah, I think I could try that.
You would give it a try? You would consider
Yeah.
it? Okay, so why don't you try that, and then when we meet next session, you can tell me how it went?
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good.
All right, then.
Thank you. Hi Maria, this is our second session. Why don't you reiterate to me what happened last session?
Okay, last session we were talking about how my parents are constantly comparing me to my brother, and it's getting very old and very boring.
Thank you for refreshing memory. From what I remember, your parents constantly compare you to your brother, and you see your brother as the golden child of the family, and all this comparison, and you always put below your brother as kind of bringing you down, and it makes you pretty angry about it.
Yep.
Have you tried talking to your parents since our last session?
Yeah, but it kind of always ends up in a fight because we'll bring it up in like the heat of the moment, and tempers flare and it blows up in both our faces.
So what do you think you could do to stay calm in such a situation and maybe for it not to escalate in a fight?
I guess I'd have to tell them when it's not relevant, like kind of bring it up when we're both calm and collected, but I don't know, it doesn't really happen that way.
Well, can you think of a situation now in which maybe you could express your feelings before that fight occurs, such as like at the dinner table when you guys maybe aren't talking about stuff?
That's usually when the comparisons occur.
Oh, so maybe that's not such a good...
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea.
So tell me about have any incidents happened?
Yes. So report cards came home, which is great. It was good. I came home, I opened mine, I was very impressed. A couple A's, a lot of B's. Very impressed. On the honor roll once again. So my parents saw it, they were very happy. So then my brother waltzes in and opens his, and he got a 97 average total. So clearly they were fawning over him because he got the 97 average. He's going to be very up there with his class.
And I take it, as soon as your brother walked in with his report card, they stopped praising you?
Well, it wasn't like I'm not craving attention here, but it was sort of like I was now overlooked, and I was now comparing myself to him. I was looking at my report card going, well, that could have been an A. Well, I didn't study hard enough for that test.
What you just said, I picked up on, you started comparing yourself to your brother?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me about that?
I guess because I hear it so often now from them, like, oh, well, your brother got this, he did that, what are you doing? Now I'm questioning it, like, in my head when we go head-to-head now.
So what are some thoughts about yourself when you compare yourself to your brother?
In what aspect? School? Extracurricular
Whichever.
activities?
Well, we were talking about your report card, so why don't you tell me about that?
Okay. So he's straight A's, obviously. So now I think to myself, my study habits, why I got a B, things like that. And then I have to, I question myself, well, I could have studied that longer. I should have asked him to help me on this. Things like that.
So what you're saying is you kind of look back and think, well, why didn't I do this and why didn't I do that? And maybe if you kind of think, if I had done some of the things you're thinking of, you would be on the same level as your brother?
Yeah.
So what makes you think that if you actually did those things that you would have the outcome your brother does?
Because I guess in my head I'm not trying hard enough. So if I did all those things, I would assume I'd be up to his level. Sort of, kind of.
So you see yourself, maybe if you did put in those extra study hours and maybe if you did do some of the things your brothers did, you would be getting the grades. But what's the worst that could happen if you don't get that A?
Then I end up sitting there, seeing side by side. Then it diverts their attention to the straight A's, and it makes me feel like, all right, why? What's the deal here?
Mhm. And I realize that they're your parents, and you kind of, I assume, look up to them and kind of want to make them proud of you, correct? But what would be the worst thing that would happen if you couldn't make them proud? I guess what I'm trying to say is, even if you don't meet their standards, what's the worst? I mean...
No, because then I gotta think, here's what they think of him, what are they actually thinking of me? Like, I know what they're saying, but, they're still gonna be comparing the two of us.
So you're worried about their thoughts about you? And what do you think they think when they're comparing you to your brother?
I don't know. They could either be thinking, she did well, this is her potential, this is what we expected of her, this was great for her, or they could be thinking, what was she doing? She should have gotten straight A's too.
So, why are their thoughts so important to how you're acting?
Yes, because they're my parents.
Okay. So, why don't we end there, and why don't you see if you could try to talk to them in a calm manner, maybe not at the dinner table since that seems to be where all the fighting occurs. Why don't you try expressing to them how you feel about how they compare yourself to your brother?
Can do that.
It's probably going to take a lot of effort. Are you willing to put in the effort?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay.